Welcome back to the Panda Research Institute. What's happening, my fine fellow pandas? Peter Von Panda here. Hey, I wanted to talk to you a little bit. I might kind of changed my setup a little bit here, so I don't know if you'll be able to see or hear me as well as normal, but I'm trying to improve not only video but audio quality as well. And I wanted to rant. That's all I ever do around here. Let me pull this up here so I can see what I'm doing. Wanted to rant about Academy Awards, the Academy Awards, and wanted to rant a little bit about, not a little bit, I'm going to rant as long as I want. Rant about why Loving Vincent did not win the Academy Award. I probably should have set myself up here a little bit better. With some pre-notes, but hey, let's get into it. First of all, you know I like Loving Vincent. Yes, Lucas, what's happening, my friend? Yes, YouTuber. So come on, join in the chat with me. Let me know what's up with you, what we can do to make this a better experience for everyone. But Loving Vincent was basically a Dutch film that was hand-painted, and it was about Vincent van Gogh. Vincent van Gogh. And it was a movie that every frame, the 69,000 frames, that's kind of what I recall, were all hand painted in the style of Vincent van Gogh. And so the movie in its totality, in its total, in its totality, and the scale and the effort, and I mean, it's just mind blowing. The movie took over 5 years to produce because they had 100+ painters painting every scene, every frame, and it looks like a Vincent van Gogh painting, and it just kind of comes to life. It looks like swirls of paint moving around, and the whole movie was just, in and of itself, just kind of that exercise should have been enough to win an Academy Award just on kind of development. But on top of that, I think the film itself was really interesting. Now, I don't know that it was the best film ever, but for an independent film, it was pretty darn good. And it took an angle on Vincent van Gogh, which I don't think was pretty universally known. So the issue was that I think, as a kid, I was told and learned that Vincent killed himself, suicide. He was manic depressive or something like that. And apparently now the history is kind of saying that no, he probably wasn't. He was probably killed. He might have actually protecting some of the people who killed him, and like it was maybe kids that shot him, or a farmer that shot him for trespassing. Lucas, you're a good buddy. I'm glad you're along for the ride here. And so it just kind of looked at what might have really happened and maybe what did happen. And there are different theories out there, but I didn't even know those were theories until I started seeing about the Loving Vincent movie and kind of what ended up happening after that. So obviously, like a lot of artists, he wasn't even famous in his lifetime, only selling one painting, I believe, maybe two, but only one like commercially. And it wasn't until after his death and after his brother's death that he became famous. And it was really because of his brother's Theo's wife, the widow, that actually made Vincent van Gogh kind of the seminal artist that he is today. So I think the story needed to be told and shared, and it had a wonderful cast, and was a wonderful film, very moving, very powerful, and given that it was an independent, it was amazing. But like I said, the amount of effort that it went into producing it, DG, you rock, my man, you rock, was just amazing. So I saw it and I said, wow, this movie has to win the Academy Award, has to win the Oscar. And it didn't. As you might know now, Coco from Pixar actually won the Best Animated Film. And here's why I think Loving Vincent was robbed. Now, I'm not the first person to throw this out there. I think this has been out there a while. But apparently, there has been a change to the way that the animated films are nominated. And that kind of leads to some different voting. Now the Academy, when they vote on best anything, is a little political. Sometimes they don't vote for actors they don't like. And a lot of actors, when they're up for roles, will have kind of their, their representatives kind of vying for them and pounding the pavement and advertising and promoting them. So I'm not going to get into all that. I don't know what happened, but when bigger companies have kind of deeper pocketbooks, they can advertise and whatnot. Now, Loving Vincent being a very small and an independent production, just like a lot of other ones, they don't have that kind of ammunition behind them. However, the big change this year was that I think now anyone could nominate, and I might have this wrong, I'm not in the Hollywood sphere, that anyone in the Academy could nominate a best animated film, uh, a film for best animated film. I guess that's what I'm saying. Anyone could do it. In years prior, there was a committee of people that were in the animated film industry that would nominate them. And what this did was really kind of bring forth a lot of independents and smaller films that just wouldn't get national or international attention. And it actually was a response to, I think, in 2002, a response to Disney just winning everything in the animated film world. So it was kind of like, Sleeping Beauty, Snow White, all these animated films that came up. They were all from the Walt Disney Corporation. And there were some really good animated films out there that weren't getting any attention because they just didn't have kind of anyone, advocating for them. So they put together this committee that was in that industry and in that genre. And then they would nominate up. And what we got was, over the years, a lot of nominations. Yes, YouTube. What's happened to Lucas? A lot of nominations for films that you probably wouldn't have seen otherwise. And, stop motion and, cartoon. And it was just really incredible. And there were a lot of really interesting, a lot of poignant movies, a lot of powerful movies, a lot of interesting stories and interesting points and interesting politics in them. And, nonetheless, there were still a lot of the big commercial successes. In this last year, it was like Boss Baby and Coco, obviously, and some of the other ones. But the irony of it is that this committee was put in place in 2002 because Disney was such a juggernaut. And now with these rule changes, I think it actually kind of swings back and allows kind of the big commercial movies to have the advantage. And the reason is because now anyone can nominate. So what you do is you get kind of more kind of commercial level films getting more attention, and people will kind of throw those names in there, right? And then you get everyone voting for them. So instead of kind of curating and cultivating and weeding out some of the films that maybe probably shouldn't be there, especially compared to a lot of the other films, that you start getting kind of the big names, and people will latch onto that, and I think vote for that. And the reason they vote for that, and then why it's kind of setting up big companies to win, like Pixar and Disney, or let's even call it the Katzenberg Geffen thing or whatever it is. Why they're setting it up is because most Academy members, in my opinion, this is all conjecture and opinion, is that they have so many movies to watch around Oscars time that they don't watch them all. They have to kind of pick and choose, and they have to vote based on kind of all the other influences. A lot of times, whatever is getting promoted, and they're kind of getting pavement pounded for and stuff like that. I remember Annette Bening was up for an Oscar years ago, and they were talking about how much PR was going into trying to help her win it. And I don't think she did win it, but that's just part of it, and it's kind of an X factor each year. But then the problem is that because there are all these other movies and a lot of Best Picture, and you got to watch the movies and categories that you really care about, most adults don't want to watch an animated film. And what I think is that, particularly in almost all these other categories, they don't want to sit down and watch Coco and Boss Baby. And then you throw in these other ones like Loving Vincent. They don't know anything about it as a kid's movie or whatever. So they just don't watch any of them. And they just vote for whatever is being pushed, which is going to be from Disney. It's going to be from big powerhouses. Or it's going to be even from peer pressure from their kids, right? It'd be like, hey, kids, did you watch Coco? Wow, we loved it. We loved Moana, whatever. All right, I'm going to vote for that. It's got to be pretty good. Pixar always does a nice job. It's kind of an easy vote to make, and you don't even have to watch these things. And that's kind of my issue, is that I think Loving Vincent really got robbed. Now, I didn't see all the other animated films that were nominated, but, I think, my problem is that you've got to really reward and acknowledge what some people do on a fraction of the budget of the big places. I expect a quality story and quality execution from Pixar, and they always do it. And some of them have been better than others. That's obviously the nature of anything. Like Finding Nemo was good, and then I don't know how many spinoffs, and Toy Story, and how many spinoffs, but they all can't be just fantastic. But they've had a lot of really good ones, and you expect it because of the resources. Now, when you make a good movie like Loving Vincent, you have all of this grassroots support and all of these fantastic artists that contribute, and just the immense amount of creativity and love that is poured into a project like this. And then the execution is is wonderful. I mean, it's really moving and engaging from a viewer standpoint. Man, it hurts me to think that you get a nomination, but then you might not win because the Academy and the members, yeah, you know what, they're kind of voting with whatever they're being advertised to. So that's my issue. I don't know if it's totally valid, but I think the problem is moving forward, especially if there isn't like a subset group of Academy members that nominates it and kind of forces some of these smaller independent animated films kind of into the to the nominee pool. It's going to make it even harder for kind of the small guy to break in. I'm hopeful that it's not just like kind of maybe anything. That I'm a kind of an underdog supporter, but that kind of hurt. I felt bad for the Loving Vincent, the peeps out there. I just think they do a great job. I would have loved to see it in wider release, and I would love to see it shared with more people because I think they'd really like it from the artistic standpoint, the story, as well as kind of the historical significance of it. So that's my rant for tonight. Just wanted to share that with you, get it out there because why do today what I can put off till tomorrow? So anyway, not a Hollywood guy, but I like Loving Vincent. Anyway, folks, I appreciate you spending a little time with the Panda tonight at the Panda Research Institute. Good morrow, everyone, and good night. Long live the Republic. Peter Von Panda out.